All right, welcome everyone. This is the 23rd day of April 2018. Very pleased everyone is here. We don't have a public hearing, so we'll go directly into the roll call.
Yes.
Ms. Golden.
Mayor Curley?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mathis?
Here.
Alderpersons? Blanks?
Here.
Duncan?
Here.
Dunn? King?
Here.
Noahs?
Here.
7 present.
Oh, well, quorum. I'm looking for Pastor Nutter.
He's here.
There you go. Okay, I'm sorry. Didn't see you there. So, Pastor Nutter, please step to the podium and offer our invocation. Ask everyone to please stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, we give thanks to you this night for bringing us all together, and we pray that you would open up our ears to hear one another, and that you open up our hearts to understand, and that you also open up our hands to serve you and to serve this great community. Season our speech, Lord, as with salt, as it were, and bless us. Hear us in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Nutter. Okay, you see we have a new young person that's joined us this evening. Sandra, help me with your last name again.
Chuggy.
Chuggy, okay. She is, I had an opportunity to meet and visit with her for a little while this afternoon. She's an outstanding student. She has an interest in not only Tullahoma, but world issues. She is an exchange student from Italy. And in my 16 plus years doing this, I don't have any recollection of having an international exchange student as honorary alderman. So this is a treat, I think, for all of us. This summer she will return to Milan, Italy, and to complete her high school education there. She plans to attend law school upon graduation for a career in either law or politics. So I suggested her a few minutes ago that, she might come back to Tullahoma. That's happened before. I hear this all the time. We need a good mayor in Tullahoma. People tell me that all the time. So be pleased for you to come back. She will graduate from Tullahoma High School, and she has a GPA of 3.993. I guess that means somewhere way back there you made a B in something. And she's taking AP Calculus. She was the senior attendant in the homecoming court. She's a member of the Aristocats show choir, and she's a very active member in the Girl Scouts. And she's not only been active in the Girl Scouts in Tullahoma, but she's been active in Girl Scouts in Italy for the past 11 years. So, Alexandra, we'd love to hear a little bit more about yourself.
I'm an exchange student from Milan, Italy. I arrived in America at the end of July, and I'm leaving at the beginning of June. I'm living with my host family, the Duckworths, and I have loved making so many new friends and experiencing so many new things here. I danced for a little while at the dance company, and the 25th I'm graduating from the Tullahoma High School, and when I go back I have another year of high school because we have 5, so I'm gonna graduate again. and then I'm planning to go to a law school, probably in Italy, to become a lawyer or a politician.
Good. So, anybody have any questions of Alessandra? I'm quite impressed. So, Dr. Duckworth is here, and do you mind stepping to the podium and just, I think we all have an interest in international students and how that process works. If you could take just a minute and share with us, please. Welcome.
Thank you. So we acquired Alessandra through Green Heart Exchange Program, which Justin's aunt is a coordinator for that in the area. And I'm going to have to kind of read from this because I don't know much about the program. But she says it's been around since 1985. It's a nonprofit agency. And the purpose really is to help build bridges between different countries and exchanging our culture with other cultures. And so she says they have a host of 60 countries that represents their exchange group. So if you're interested, let me know. I can give you the website.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you, Dr. Duckworth. Well, Alessandra, thank you again for being here. We'll call on you in a few minutes to maybe share with us some of the activities you're involved with at school, if you'd like, or outside. And so if you'd like to stand there at your desk, we'll present you with a certificate recognizing you as the honorary alderman. And Dr. Duckworth, if you want to come up and get the picture as well, you know. So do you see all these attractive women in the audience wearing blue jackets tonight? Isn't that nice? And one joining us here. So we present a proclamation and the headline, General Federation of Women's Clubs Day, April 24, 2018. Whereas Jane Cunningham Crowley, a professional journalist, was denied admittance to a press club event honoring Charles Dickens because of her gender and subsequently formed a women's club, whereas Mrs. Crowley invited women's clubs throughout the U.S. to pursue the cause of federation by attending a convention on April 24, 1890, thus officially forming the General Federations of Women's Club by ratifying the GFWC Constitution. And whereas in 1896, GFWC of Tennessee was federated, and whereas in 1996, GFWC Centennial Women's Club of Tullahoma was chartered by the General Federation of Women's Clubs, and whereas GFWC of Tennessee members have implemented a broad range of projects under the GFWC motto, Unity and Diversity, to create positive change throughout volunteer community service, and now therefore be it resolved that I, Lane Curley, Mayor of Tullahoma, Tennessee, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor, do hereby proclaim April 24th, 2018 as General Federation of Women's Clubs Day in Tullahoma, and encourage all citizens of the city to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance. So, tomorrow is your day in Tullahoma. So do you want, Ms. Keene, anything that you'd like to say? Or?
I appreciate all the ladies. Those of you who don't know, the GFWC Centennial Women's Club, excuse my voice, is very involved in our community, and we shall appreciate all of the things they do. right now. Obviously, they've been working on the South Jackson, Light Up South Jackson campaign and helped raise over $100,000. So very fortunate to be a part of that club and very proud of all the ladies and all the hard work that they do. So this started many, many, many years ago. So we just try to keep the legacy going. So we appreciate that.
Very nice comments. Thank you. So we want to get a picture up front?
Sure.
Okay.
Ladies, will y'all come up real quick?
I think, Ms. Grantham, you're the president, is that right? Any comments that you would like to make?
Yes.
Ms. Grantham?
President?
Yeah.
We'll come out and stand right here. Yes, can you take a picture, please?
On behalf of the GFWC Centennial Club, I want to thank Mayor Hurley and the City of Tullahoma for the opportunity to work with them and for declaring tomorrow. I would also like to announce that we had our state convention this past weekend, and GFWC Centennial Club was presented with the CIP First Place Award for our South Jackson, Light Up South Jackson.
Y'all come down this way. Lisa, I think the mayor can
To be on the third?
Well, I reckon. He said that he has a citizens group right now, so we'll get him down to the top of the line. He said that.
Okay, cool. I wonder how many apps they have.
He did not say.
I thought it was like 100.
Okay, I'm very pleased to also make the announcement that this is Fair Housing Month, and each year, for many years, we have recognized April 2018 as Fair Housing Month. Whereas April 11, 2018 marks the 50th anniversary of the passage of the Fair Housing Act, which enunciates a national policy of fair housing for all who live in the United States. And whereas the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination based on race, color, religion, gender, handicap, familial status, and national origin. And whereas fair housing is a positive community good, and whereas economic stability, community health, and human relations in all communities are improved by diversity and integration. And whereas fair housing is integral to the ethical commitment of members of the National Association of Realtors and the Middle Tennessee Association of Realtors, and is critical to the ability of all real estate professionals to serve their clients, customers, and communities. Now therefore be it resolved that Lane Curley, Mayor of the City of Tullahoma, Tennessee, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Fair Housing Month. So I think Rex Brown is here to receive this. So Rex, I'll recognize you at the podium. Any comments that you'd like to make, Mr. Brown?
It is Fair Housing Month, and I would like, the rest of my fellow TAR members to, perhaps be in the picture with us, and we appreciate you recognizing the fact that fair housing is an important thing. It's very, very integral to the Realtor Code of Ethics.
As I think most of you know, I, along with all of you as well, attend hundreds of events in the community each year. And I'm very, very careful with my calendar that, that I don't miss things. Well, I messed up this morning. And I did not attend a breakfast this morning to recognize the bookshelf volunteers. I saw Mrs. Masuda here somewhere, and Becky is here.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, they're here? Okay, yeah. So, first of all, I apologize for missing the breakfast. My fault, nobody's fault but my own. And in appreciation and recognition for the hours donated by the volunteers at the bookshelf, which helps fund the Literacy Council efforts to support adult basic education. So on behalf of the 18,655 citizens that call Tullahoma home, and by the authority vested in me as mayor of Tullahoma, I now therefore proclaim Monday, April 23rd, 2018, as the Bookshelf Volunteers Day in Tullahoma. So if you'd like to step to the podium. And recognize you for any comments that you'd like to make. Unless you're going to say something bad about me for missing the
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to publicly recognize the faithful volunteers that we have. And these volunteers spend their time promoting adult education, and thank you very much.
Sure. I hope all of you are patrons of the bookshelf at Northgate Mall. It's really a neat facility, nice place. Let's see, do we have someone here from, Jamie, are you here for the proclamation on the water? So, Protect the Source Drinking Water Week is May 6th through 12th, whereas water is our most valuable natural resource, and whereas only tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, support for our economy, and the quality of life we enjoy. And whereas any measure of a successful society, low mortality rates, economic growth and diversity, productivity, and public safety are in some way related to access to safe water. And whereas we are all stewards of the water infrastructure upon which future generations depend. Now therefore be it resolved by the first virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of Tullahoma, proclaim May 6th through 12th, 2018 as Drinking Water Week in Tullahoma. In addition, Thursday, May 3rd, 2018 will be Tullahoma Utilities Authority Drinking Water Week Celebration Day from 3 to 5 on the TUA grounds. Jamie, you want to say anything?
Use that all.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's get a picture. Okay.
Stand along there. Oh, sorry. There we go. 1, 2, 3.
Let's see. This board loves to recognize achievement, and we have with us tonight two individuals that are certainly worthy of recognition. We have some state champions with us tonight. So let me ask, is Coach Hargrove here, Coach Hale here? See Coach Hale. Do you mind stepping to the podium and give us a little briefing as to what these two young people did, please, sir? And ask the two young people to join you as well. We have state champions here, again.
First of all, thank you so much for having us. And without the support of the school board, of Lawson, Mr. Hargrove, we wouldn't be where we are today. Both of these young people, the one, Chambers, a fourth grader who's been shooting since third grade, shot a .281 this year to win the state championship. There were 267 boys that competed in the tournament. He ended up number one. There were 942 elementary, middle school, high school, and elementary boys, and he was 23rd overall. Wow. So we've got one. He also shot in a 3D tournament. Our team placed first in the team event, bullseye, and the team event 3D, and he finished second in the state in the 3D tournament also. Olivia Spencer's been shooting since third grade, so this is her third year to shoot with us. In third grade, she was the #1 archer, third grader. Fourth grade, the #1 archer in the state in fourth grade. And once again in fifth grade, out of 251 elementary girls, she finished first again.
All right.
Well, another accomplishment she had, we shot in the 3D and she finished first also in the 3D tournament, so she's a two-time state champion this year. Not only are they very talented in archery, but they're both all A honor roll all year long.
Oh, all right.
All right, that's it as far as things I have. Do you have any questions for him? Olivia loves to talk. So.
Tell by the look on her face.
Thank you so much.
We're so proud of both of them and all the students that you work with during the course of the school year to get them where they are today. We love recognizing achievement. And these two young people are representative of some great students.
Very dedicated and work hard. As I tell most people, we practice 5 mornings a week. Open gym, free to come. They don't have to come, but we have about 18 or 20 come every morning at 7 o'clock. And these two come every morning.
Can these young people, can they beat Coach Hargrove shooting?
They can beat most adults. He's very good, and he has shot a cougar in the eye before, but they're really good.
So we'll recognize the two young people with certificates of shooting again. No, come on down here. We got state champions here.
Mr. Banks, we'll switch over now. We just want to make sure we see everything.
Everybody hold it. Yeah, just hold it.
Here, 1, 2, 3. Shift over a little bit. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody's patience, but I think it's important that we recognize that, a achievement like that. Really an important part of what we do. Okay, we're ready for comments from citizens. Anyone else in the audience have anything to address the board that's not later on the agenda? Dr. Leffler.
Yes, Neil Leffler, 310 Oak Park Circle. I reviewed the minutes for this meeting, the last meeting, and it was I had a couple questions about it. There was a reference to an appendix of the materials that Mr. Hazard had provided. I couldn't find that in the board packet that was downstairs.
So we'll get a copy to you.
All right. The intent was for that to be a part of, as according to, there's another citizen that came up that night and asked that that be a part of the public record. And I guess that will be done. Sir?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Also, in looking at the minutes, I noticed that I appreciate the comments, whoever wrote the minutes, making it brief. That was good. I want to clarify, though, Mr. Hazard was talking about the 6 properties that are adjacent, or there in Oak Park. That was the issue, and that those properties impinge upon the grocery store or the gas station, just for a clarification. Also, as some of you may know, I used to be vice president for the Planning Commission, and I've been going to planning commissions ever since I was vice president, in one capacity or another. And I really have a passion for seeing that citizens are represented in those sessions. And so I've started going to the development committee meeting, as well as looking at the different processes within the system to ensure that, or to suggest to you, hopefully ensure that citizens have a right, that their rights are being expressed. And one suggestion that comes out, and I've already said this to the mayor, and I said something to Nina about this, relative to the meetings that you all have. I'm saying to you, Renee, and to you, Robin, I would encourage you to consider having a study session on parliamentary law. When I was on the board, we had that study session, and we had to deal with some difficult issues just like you've had to deal with. And secondly, I would suggest that you consider assigning somebody to be a parliamentarian for that meeting other than your officers, the most skilled person on that board, for your consideration. That's my finding. The second thing I'd like you to consider, the thing I'm looking at, is develop a process in the deliberative process where citizens have more to say as they arrive at their deliberations. And second, that when there's a disagreement, as there has been, and there will be in the future, I'm sure, that the economic status of that citizen or that group does not factor in. You don't have to have money in order to have your case heard. As it currently stands, it doesn't appear like that.
That's not true. Not true. Not true. Go ahead, finish. Not true. I refuse to accept that.
Good. Could you explain it to me?
No, sir. But I'm just assuring you, you accused me of being unfair at the last meeting. I'm a very fair person. I've always tried to be very deliberative and fair. I don't like being accused of what you're about to accuse. So go ahead and finish, and you can sit down.
I finished it, it said.
If you're finished,
from my vantage point. My vantage point, if a group of citizens has a difference with the planning commission, or with the planning commission, disagrees with their decision, the only recourse that they have is court. There's no alternative that I know of that they have where they can share their case. That implies to me that the only way you can defend yourself is if you have money. And not all the folks in the city have that.
Anyone else? All right, we'll proceed. We're ready for board report. Ms. Keene, please.
I apologize in advance. I know I sound like a man, but I'll make it brief. I'll just.
What are you saying?
I'm in with the rest of it.
We resemble that one.
Yes, you do. Okay. All right, I attended the Women's Impacting the Community Luncheon, in which they recognized several women in our community who have gone way beyond helping in our community, and we really do appreciate everything they've done. The Planning and Coordinating meeting, the Planning Commission meeting, the volunteer banquet was hosted by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen last week, and we recognized many, many volunteers in our community who give back, and we do appreciate them. Morning Point recognized their volunteers who donate time, and I do that monthly, a calling bingo, and enjoyed all of the residents over there. That was a lot of fun. And our GFWC had our wine and spirits tasting this past week, and made money for the Light Up South Jackson campaign, when we'll be making a donation to that. So we appreciate everyone who attended that as well. Just an FYI, tomorrow is the coffee at Lakewood, and that it will be hosted by TUA. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Alderman Dunn.
Thank you, Mayor. Since our last board meeting, I did attend the industrial board meeting, county industrial board meeting, the mayor's planning and coordinating meeting. I helped out with the trash pickup on Saturday, which was very invigorating, should I say, at the least. And I had the honor of giving the invocation at the volunteer awards dinner, and we have a lot of great volunteers here in Tullahoma. And I was really impressed by that group that were there, and just the work that they continue to do. And I do represent the county at the county law enforcement committee. We had a joint meeting with another law group, which I think Chief Blackwell is a part of, and to find ways to better, the jail is actually full again. We're at capacity level, and we've got to do something, either build a new jail or try to rehabilitate some of the ones, stop that revolving door going in. And I've been advocating this for a long time, and we're working at some things, and Dr. Leffler and I talked about some things several years ago, and we're working towards it. And some of the churches are getting more involved, and I think that's what it's going to take for churches to get involved, adopt somebody maybe. And some of the churches are already doing that, and they're making a difference. So I think we're trying to get more churches involved. But that meeting was right on time with just what maybe we need to do, a path to take, and some good things that I think are going to come from that. So it was a great meeting, and it went long for a couple of hours, but it was a great meeting. And one other thing today, I have a young man that from my church that is shadowing me today on my job, Mr. Tiangelo Ewing. Stand up and let him see you, please. Yeah. I'm part of a mentoring program that we are mentoring young men, and he's a fine young man. I just met him yesterday, but I think he's got great potentials, and he sounds like he might want to get in this line of business someday, maybe. We'll see. But anyway, that's it. That's pretty much it. So.
Thank you. Dr. Blanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since our last meeting, I had a Duck River Utilities Commission meeting. We approved a budget for this next year that does not have any water increase, water rate increase, which is good. Also helped with the cleaning up Saturday morning. We did Clement Drive. It wasn't too dirty. I've seen it worse. It was worse on your end, but we've got. It's amazing what people throw out their windows. You just want to beat them in the head. Don't litter, please. Keep Tullahoma beautiful. Remember Tennessee trash. Don't be that. TUA, we've had plus 10 new customers in the month of March for Light Tube, which is good. I'd like to reiterate the Water Week celebration. They'll have a sort of a celebration on that on the 3rd from 3 to 5:30. There will be food, prizes involved, so turn out for that for Water Week. The Chamber Coffee, like Renee said, is tomorrow, hosted by TUA as well. And I also attended the volunteer dinner last week. And it was also a lot of fun and good to recognize the people that volunteer in this community. Without our volunteers, a lot of stuff wouldn't get done, and we appreciate that. Also, just so I won't forget, Shop Tullahoma. That's all I have. Coach, you're next.
We're all waiting with
bated breath.
I thought he was going to forget it.
I did too.
I thought he was.
Sometimes you have to remind me.
I know.
I'm maturing.
Right.
Mr. Mathis.
I do not have a report tonight, so thank you.
Yes, sir. Ms. Dunn.
Well, we finished up Earth Day on Saturday. It was so fun. We had a great time, and I have to say that that whole event was put together because I said, hey, would you like to? And I had dozens of people say, yes, I would like to get involved. And so it was through a lot of volunteers and special people that happened. We had Friends of Short Springs had several new members join that day. We had several hundred dollars in donations. We had dozens of plants sold from the community garden, and 2 dogs were adopted from the animal shelter. And one of the gentlemen who adopted one of the puppies, his little brother won the Bonnaroo tickets. So lots of big winners in several areas in that family. And so, yeah, it was a great day. And I would like to let everybody know that on May 31st, mark your calendars, Lanham Library is having a block party on Collins Street. It should be a lot of fun. I just found out about it today, so. But it's been a great week.
Well, you mentioned big winners, but I think Tullahoma was a big winner as well.
It was a lot of fun.
I thought it was very well done, very well organized, a lot of people learning about different opportunities, and so I appreciate you and Mrs. McCall, all the work that you did to pull it all together. Very nice, thank you. Alderman Norris.
Thank you. Since our last meeting, that I have attended the Mayor's Planning and Coordinating Committee. The Mayor was kind enough to ask me to participate in trash pickup on Saturday, but had some other plans that morning, but I did go out and clean up in my community on the street there Saturday afternoon. So it just bothers me badly when I see, it's anything gets to me, it's when I see somebody toss a bag of garbage out. Anyway, we do good by taking care of those people. But most of my activities for the last couple of weeks have been related to the airport and the airport authority. I did attend the volunteer appreciation banquet and recognized all the board members on the airport authority that were there, which was a good turnout for that. And we have a great board there, a great functioning board, and they needed that recognition. And then for the next 2-3 days, I attended the Tennessee Aeronautics Association annual conference that a lot of good information was exchanged that I'm taking back to the airport there for them to share. So I've got that.
Good. So Tullahoma had to give up our Airport of the Year designation. Do you know, have they announced yet who the new Airport of the Year?
Yes, they did. The Lebanon Airport won the Airport of the Year for this year. These are typical, and what was so impressive to me is these regional airports, non-commercial airports that get this recognition. So we were recognized as being passing the baton to Lebanon, so we're still taking advantage of that recognition.
Very nice, thank you. Alessandra, anything that you'd like to announce?
Thank you. Yes, next Sunday, 5 of our Tullahoma Girl Scout will be honored in a ceremony in Nashville. 4 of them are receiving the Girl Scout highest honor of Gold Award. And we'll finish up the school year at the high school, so things are very busy in preparation for graduation ceremony and project graduation.
Yeah, very nice, thank you. Thank you for being with us tonight. Yeah. So just a couple of things to remind you of. The Service Awards Banquet is next Tuesday. Next Wednesday at 2 o'clock, gubernatorial candidate Bill Lee will be here. Would encourage at 2 o'clock, or encourage all of you to attend. And it's important that we learn their vision for our state and give them an opportunity to learn more about Tullahoma. Let's see. Because of the potential for bad rain today, we postponed the groundbreaking of the animal shelter until 4:30 at the next meeting, prior to the next meeting. At 5 o'clock, before the next meeting, is when we recognize and honor the superlatives and the valedictorian and et cetera, prior to that meeting. I'm sure all of you know that May 4th is Mr. Balt's last day with the city, formally with the city government. We'll try to find something to do. He's not accepted anything.
All in favor?
I will say this, Mr. Blackwell has done an excellent job learning on the job, and I'm sure we'll do a good job. This Friday's the Arbor Day celebration, I believe at 10 o'clock. Where's Mr. Brooks? Where's it? That's what I thought, at Vision Source. Okay. And then,
Found that out this afternoon.
And then Mrs. Sarton will tell us a little bit more about Taste of Tullahoma coming up on May the 22nd. So, Mr. Taylor, Butch Taylor, could I ask you to step to the podium for just a second? I received this email, and I have his permission to share it with you. The person's name is Brett Chafin. Around noon one weekday, while traveling on Cedar Lane about halfway between Wilson and Lincoln, 2 or 3 city trucks suddenly stopped, and I realized immediately that I was about to witness some road work. My past experience told me this would delay my journey for a while. However, what happened when those trucks stopped was remarkable. 2 men grabbed signs and ran to get into position to control traffic, while another 2 grabbed shovels with filling material and immediately got to work. These men were moving without a wasted motion like a SWAT team. Whoa. Within 30 seconds, the 5 cars that were traveling behind these trucks were past them and moving along. People probably contact you every day to tell you what isn't working, which isn't true, but maybe he assumed that. So I thought you should know what is working. That team is working with a quickness. So I wanted to give that to you. While you're at the podium, would you share with the, do you recall, I believe I recall, how many bags were picked up Saturday? Do you recall?
Oh, gosh, Mayor, I do not recall the exact number. I know this is the biggest or the most participation we've had since we've been doing this. I think we had 160 volunteers. We run out of everything.
Yeah. My recollection from Ms. Keith this morning to put in my article was 152 bags of trash.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it was a good job from everybody. Yeah. Good participation.
Right. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I don't normally like to embarrass anybody like that, but I thought you might enjoy that, and I'm sure you will. Please share that.
I will do that.
Yeah. A month or several months ago or so, I had an opportunity to meet a young lady. She's with us tonight, Miss Lee Fogel, and she was sharing with me some of the exciting work that she's doing with, and I'm not a tech person at all, so she lost me after about a paragraph. And she was willing to share that work that she was doing with the people of Tullahoma, and she's been doing so. So I'm going to call on Mr. Brooks, if you don't mind, to give a little introduction of Lee, and she's going to make a brief presentation.
Well, thank you, Mayor, Aldermen. Great day to be in Tullahoma. Tonight I'm excited to introduce an innovative new program. I know we agree that it's important to have a vibrant downtown that is a destination for locals and visitors. In the past few years, the downtown has experienced a revitalization with new shops and streetscapes, and most recently we've completed the installation of a free public Wi-Fi network, which is part of a broader downtown strategic plan developed in 2016. This new public Wi-Fi network was installed using grant funds from the USDA Rural Development, and they actually visited with us on Friday to inspect the work we've been doing, and they were very pleased and excited to see all the progress. As part of the Wi-Fi project, we have partnered with a local tech entrepreneur, Lee Fogel, who is the owner of Near2, a company that is about connecting people with timely and relevant information that will enhance their everyday experiences. Grant funds will allow us to pilot this program with downtown businesses, and we hope to roll it out to a wider audience. Lee has worked in the technology sector for many years, and her and her family moved to Tullahoma a few years ago from a major metropolitan area. Lee, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Winston. Thank you, Mayor Curley and members of the Board of Aldermen and the City of Tullahoma. It's a pleasure to be here today. Forgive me for those of you behind me. I asked Winston if we could bring in the television to have a little bit better view of what I'm going to show you, and maybe those of you behind can just look at my monitor with me. So I'm Lee Fogel. I did move to Tullahoma 4 years ago this month, along with my husband Brian, my daughter Meredith, who is age 14, and my son Grant, who will be 13 on Friday. I am a lifelong entrepreneur, and I'm blessed that I'm able to work and live anywhere with good internet and access to highways and airports. So we chose Tullahoma because of that, quality education, parks and recreation, and low cost of living. Add in, we were thrilled to have stumbled upon Tullahoma, and this community has really welcomed us, and the things that I have seen and the community involvement, it's just phenomenal, and we're thrilled to call this home. Mayor Curley asked me to speak with you today about Near2, the technology company that I am founder of. In the past few months, I have been working with Winston Brooks on how we can deploy Near2 as the next step in connecting people and places through technology. These little devices that we all carry in our hands. But to begin with, I thought I'd give you a little context and some history so that you'll better understand where we have come from and how we've gotten to where we're going. So to start with, we'll go way, way back to the olden days. We have constantly been struggling as towns and merchants on how to get people to come to our communities and to buy from us.
That's Dr. Lawson there in the center.
It might be. Can you all see?
I'm sort of like
You know, it used to be the yelling in the streets, and eventually it became signs and pictures and things. Eventually that turned into books, postcards, newspapers, magazines. There's always been evolution of this marketing chain. Next came along movies and television, and how we can connect with people using those kinds of things. And the ever-present telephone. Remember when we all used the yellow pages, and that was how you could figure out where to order your pizza from. So now, I think everyone in this room, for the most part, probably not you, remember when the first wave of the internet hit. I remember it. So we started to see these websites and emails pop up. And I remember having an argument with one of my salespeople who told me that we really needed to get email addresses. And I said, no one wants to talk through a computer. Pick up the phone and call your customer. I was really wrong on that, obviously. Eventually, we started to have mobile devices that turned into how we now text, and you all know the story. Now it's this ever-present accessory that most of us carry with us all the time. Which brought us to the next step in the evolutionary chain, social media. So who would have thought 10 years ago that Facebook and Instagram and Twitter were going to be the way that we communicated with our customers and our tourists and our visitors? But this is really how we're struggling and how we're communicating. So the whole thing has designed us to be better connected, but I would argue in many ways we are less connected than ever. I think you all have seen when we're in a doctor's office, everyone's on their phone watching Facebook. They're not really present anymore. And I think that there is an opportunity to change that because of some things that are coming. So the Near2 tagline is called Connect with Purpose. And we are founded on the belief that we must use tools like mobile devices and websites and social media to do more than just to market to consumers. What if we focus on how to improve experiences, how to better engage and connect? The benefit will not only be happier, more connected and engaged consumers, but also increase sales, tourists, and I'd wager even increase residents to the progressive communities that embrace this next evolution of marketing. So we are already seeing the next wave of what we call the Internet of Things. I think a lot of you have probably heard of IoT, and forgive me for this being kind of a small thing, but it's showing how that's going up and up in the more connected devices. So we're starting to see already how we can pull into our driveway and the garage door knows it's us and automatically opens, or the connected Wi-Fi thermostat or lighting that happens. What is also happening kind of simultaneously is what's called the Internet of Everything. But instead of device to device, it is connecting people, process, data, and things. And so this is happening. It's just the next evolution of things. Near2 is focused on the people part of that. We believe that Tullahoma is the ideal test location to prove our hypothesis about connecting people through digital technology. So there's a lot of background here, but I just wanted you to understand what we are doing matters. That Near 2 is not just another idea. It's not just another startup with a new concept. We have been watching, asking, testing, researching, and we have built a platform as a result. It's still an evolution, but we are excited to demonstrate how Near 2 can connect Tullahoma. What we are focused on is what Google has called a micro moment. The I want to know, I want to go, I want to do, I want to buy moments. The slide I'm sharing is taken from Think with Google, which shares marketing research and digital trends. If you like that sort of thing, I highly recommend signing up for their weekly email. In 2015, they shared that there was a 130% increase in near-me searches from the prior year. By 2016, they discovered that nearly 1/3 of all mobile searches were related to location. It's a pretty staggering sum. So most of us do this, especially when we travel, but even when we're looking for a plumber. Gone are the days of opening up the yellow pages. I did a search yesterday for restaurants near me. It's kind of funny because I've done this at my home and I also did it at the library. And what I saw was, it's a lot of the times the same result. So let me just kind of backtrack. First of all, what we're seeing is that when you type in restaurants, Google knows that you're likely looking for a restaurant near me. So now they actually input that information. The next thing to point out is that what pops up is not what is sorted by what is actually closest to me, but it's based on rankings and number of clicks. That's who goes to the top. So often the result, it's a chain restaurant who gets the top spot. And I also want to point out that only 7% of people searching will ever get to the third page. So it's difficult, obviously, for mom and pops to be able to get high up on that ranking. The other thing I want to point out is that this information is static information. It doesn't say anything about who's playing at London's tonight or what their meat and three special of the day is. It's pretty much made based on reviews of who's been there before, which, as any business owner knows, that is just a really tough thing because you can have 100 5-stars and one grumpy customer can throw in a low one or a sneaky competitor. So I use reviews when I travel, but as a business owner, I wasn't a big fan. And also it was that static information. So Near Me search has resulted in the rise of map apps like Yelp and MapQuest and Travelocity, which are great for travelers, but again, they're based on reviews and clicks. The content is static and not relevant to what is happening today, right here and right now. So we are focused on exactly that. We help the venue to share hyper-local and relevant content. The consumer can, with a couple of touches, create a search that is about time and place. Time and place is the filter. Time and place is the search. And in a lot of ways, time and place is the password. It's going to allow you to have access to information that another person may not if they come in a different time. So last Monday, Mayor Curley, Winston Brooks, members of my team, and I met with several downtown businesses over at the Chamber of Commerce. We're working with these businesses on how to best use this platform as what I think is the natural next step of the Wi-Fi deployment. We have Wi-Fi downtown. Now let's give them something to access and use that Wi-Fi with. And we're also having talks about how we can expand it outside of that. So I'm going to demonstrate to you the way this app works. It is not, and I have to transition over, I'm sorry. It is not available for consumption. There is the app on the Apple App Store and on Google, but if you downloaded it today, you're going to see a completely different version than what I'm showing you. Part of the reason that we're holding off is because we want to make sure that the content that is shown on this is what all of the merchants want it to be. Okay, so the first thing to show is that we have the ability to do notifications. So when I walked in at 5:19 this afternoon, I got a push notification that said Explore Tullahoma. Discover what is happening near to you now. And so that is something that we will put around downtown for people who have the app. And there will be things like that around town. And I have to figure out how to get to my next screen, I'm sorry. And then we'll go to the app. So as we open the app, and if you keep the app open all the time, you don't have to do this part, but it's discover what's here right now. And it will take you to a map view. So we're zooming straight down into Tullahoma. And you all can see this is what it looks like. And so what we have at this moment are what we call location cards. You can see all these pin drops of the different things. So we are at Tullahoma City Hall. If I click on that button at the bottom, you'll see what I call a location card. And this content is meant to be the dynamic information. It's kind of what I think of as the A-frame, like what you put outside on the sidewalk. If this is what you need to know of what's happening here right now. It's not world's best coffee. This Friday is the Arbor Day. A lot of the things you were talking about are actually already on this app. So I think of this as a new medium. The other thing that happens is you scroll down here, you'll see that this line at the bottom is orange. And I don't know what happened to our beacon, but somewhere in this room there is a beacon. So this is a little bit of hardware that's sending out an electronic signal. And the phone is programmed to listen for this. And when you get in proximity, it will send your phone the information. So all I have to do is click the button, and it takes me straight to this website. And so here, instead of having the printed agenda, we can now save paper and get all that information digitally. You can see how this is going to change how we connect with things. And I could favorite that information, I can share it, whatever I want to do. If I zoom back out, I'll go back to my map view. We'll go around to some of the places around town that we've been working with. So let's just see here we get. So there's Lewis and Orr has a new listing. They could share that kind of information. They could talk about history of their space, if, whatever they would like to do. Emil's, it's Professionals Day. So they're having a special luncheon for all the administrative assistants in town. And it's got the number to call. Our next version will give you the ability to just touch that button and it will call the dial. You don't have to punch in a phone number or click on the address and it'll give you Google Maps or Waze and how to get there. And as you can see, there's a gray bar below, and that would be their beacon, which they're saying like how to do catering information or I want to host a private event. So as we've been talking to the different merchants around town, I'll just kind of zoom through some of these. Memories Antiques, they have frequently asked questions about like how to rent their booth space, what this building used to be, those kinds of opportunities. So there's a lot of things that we can go with this. I'll share with you that I have been talking with, let me just start, I'll share this, that we started with churches. I'm going to zoom in on mine, if I can get to that. One of the things that will be coming is the ability to filter to say, I'm looking for restaurants or I'm looking for culture, and turn off all of these other buttons. We started working with churches so that they could deliver their bulletin digitally, which was something that they really needed a lot of help with. And it allowed us, we've been working with several churches around the southeast in testing out how this works. And when I went to the first tourism council meeting and was hearing what the city was looking to do, I approached Tom and said, and Steve May, and said, I'm building something that I think can be of service. The other groups that we've been talking with actually were some of the schools. And Dr. Sharan over at West has been really excited about what we're building. As you can see here, it's TCAP testing this week. He wants to use this technology just to send out a notification when the kids are getting picked up or dropped off of it's a 1 o'clock day today, or report cards went home, or tomorrow's crazy hat day. It's not the big long newsletter, it's just the kind of what you need to know really quick, access to information. And the thing that's exciting to me is that those location cards are things that people can see from anywhere. When they get near to that location, they'll be able to engage and discover even more information. So that's what we're building in a nutshell. I'm happy to take any questions. I hope that I didn't talk too much tech talk in that, but it's I think the next evolution of digital and marketing, and it's coming, and I would love to make Tullahoma the first what we call physically web-enabled city with your help.
It's exciting. Yes, sir.
I was just going to make a comment. When you first brought the screen up, and the little icons, the emblems were going to the back of the screen and coming back up, that technology there. Do you live close to Dr. Leffler?
I do.
I live there. I thought I remember you from the other board meeting. We were at the Dream Tullahoma meeting.
Yes.
This is just something to let you know that happened, just point of reference. That area over there, one of the gentlemen used to live there was one of my branch managers. He was head of a computer group at Arnold Air Force Base, and they developed that software.
Really?
They did. They developed that software that would send like CBS, I think, bought it from them. That would send the emblem CBS all the way back to the back of the screen. Then it shoots it up at you like this. And I saw that. That reminded me of that. He and several of his cohorts had worked there together, right across the hall from me, and Charlie Neal, I think, and a bunch of us used to work together in a computer group there. And they developed that technology back when you had to buy a computer time. You had to go to Alabama, to Huntsville, to some big place down there where they could buy computer time. and they developed that software there, and CBS bought it from them.
That's fascinating.
It is.
One of the
That happened
things-
right in your neighborhood.
Well, one of the things that I would really love to see is I would like to create some historical tours, both architectural heritage tours and Civil War tours of our downtown and actually our whole area, because with this technology now, if you have the app, you say, I'm looking for culture, I may want to look at the, the history of the homes, and my husband and son will be interested in the Civil War, but it allows for self-guided walking tours. But the other really exciting things is we're going to get some data from that. If we would know how many people are clicking, we wouldn't know who. I'm very, very big on privacy issues, but there is information of people are interested in looking at these kinds of things. And right now, when you hand out a brochure, you have no idea if they ever look at it again.
Well, who's in charge of the analytics of that, though?
That we have, it's kind of like Google Analytics, where it's just and it's dark data. So if you're asking about the privacy of who knows what, is that your question?
Well, I mean, any of us up here that's done a Google search lately or been on Facebook, they immediately add you,
Yeah.
they solicit you within 24 hours. I don't
like that either.
Well, but that's life.
Well-
And, your information, that when you go out on the web nowadays, how do we know that our information's protected?
Well-
We do not.
And that is, I will share with you as a mother, and it's very important to me too. I think what is a lot of our secret sauce and what we're focused on is, one, how do we make it easy for the venues to be able to manage their content? That's one part of what we're doing. But the other part is, as a consumer, I want to have the ability to turn on and off who knows what about me. So I may say to my church, yes, I'm willing to share with you that I go to the 9 o'clock or the 11 o'clock service, and instead of taking roll call or filling out my registration book, I'll share that with you. But I don't want to share it with the coffee shop unless the coffee shop says, if you'll allow us to know when you're here, the 10th time you'll get a cup of coffee. But every single time, that's up to the user. The problem with a lot of the apps today is that if you say, yes, I'm willing to share my location, it's all or nothing. And it doesn't allow you to turn on those filters. What I'm pushing my team to do is similar to like email marketing, where you can say, I want this email once a month, or never again, or I want it daily. I want to allow you to be able to manage your privacy information on near to in much the same way.
I know this last week I went to, even the healthcare field, they're pushing stuff. The federal government has put a gun to doctors' heads and said, you have to do it this way or we're going to dock your pay. So we as physicians have to take this crap from the federal government. So I go to a doctor last week and I have to fill out all this stuff. And, how do you want to be notified about your healthcare information? I said, no, no, no. Guess what? This morning at 7 o'clock, I get a push notification from my physician's office that I said I did not want. It still got to me.
Well, it's
So,
still
that-
early.
If it was I can get up on a soapbox on this because it's caused a lot of physicians a lot of problems. It's wonderful to be technologically savvy.
Yes.
But I don't want the government coming to me and sticking a gun in my face and saying, you have to do this because this is wonderful.
I'll share with you
It's
an
not
article.
so much so wonderful.
I completely agree with you, and I read an article about privacy, and with all the things happening with Facebook and things, I think I don't think people realized how much they were being tracked until recently. There was a lady from, I forget, a university in North Carolina, and she said, we have to think about the internet and apps similar to when automobiles came out. We didn't have windshield wipers or seat belts or, airbags. The consumers demanded that, and now it's expected. And I think what we're going to see is more and more companies like mine that are saying we have to give them the ability to manage the privacy. It's not all or nothing. And so just know that's a lot of the reason I'm building this.
Well, even, they gave me the opportunity to opt out, and they didn't follow through on that. So that, to me, that's a screw up. But you can go on your phone and you go hunting or wherever, and it can tell you, well, your car is here, you're this far away from home. It's amazing what this can do. Now, that's just my phone, and what if it's not me? Who are they sharing this with? That's the scary thing, is where it's, who's getting the information and how they're using it, with you or against you.
That's right. And so companies need to be more transparent.
Well, some of them do better job than that than others.
That's right. And and that's the beauty of capitalism really, is that consumers are going to decide who they want to support, and they're going to decide who they're not. And I think that the people that are more transparent are the ones that are going to win.
Well, sometimes capitalism has nefarious actions too.
That's absolutely right. Well, connect with purpose. I have to share it, and then I'll stop, but part of why I'm so passionate about this is because I have been following this technology in Beacons. I actually sat in with St. Thomas Ascension with their meaningful use. I saw their patient experience scores. I've known all of those things for the last, 8-9 years now. What I want this technology to do is to improve experience and make people more engaged and more connected, instead of using this as an opportunity to sell them more products. And what we're seeing happening is that it's being used in sports and entertainment and marketing, but it's all for coupons and buy here, buy here, buy here. And I think we can do more.
The EHR has not improved healthcare, in my opinion.
Well,
It's
that's
a way
a topic for another day, I think.
Well, right. I'm too old to go back and change totally, but I've turned into the Borg, when the Borg assimilated everybody, I have assimilated. It's easier for me to just do it now than to fight it. I have an uncle that's a physician that's 78 years old, and he said, forget it. You want to come see me, you're doing it the old way, which was a pretty good way. He's been doing it 55 years. So, there's this right here is wonderful. It is also the devil.
Well, let's remove movies and television and all of that history.
And I'm sure 50 years ago, before TV and all the technology, I sound like an old person now. Old people say, "Oh, the TV, that's the devil."
That's right.
So I'm turning old. But I don't get very far from this. I'm hooked to it too.
So let me ask you a question. So we've got to get merchants to know to tell their folks to go to this app. Is
That's
that right? So you've got signage or stickers
That's
or
what we're
whatnot to
working
do
on,
that? Okay.
yes. I think the plan is to work with the downtown, and we're looking at putting stickers on the doors that are part of the Near 2 network, and Wi-Fi, table tent cards, so we're pricing out what those options are. But, I would ask the city's help. I think that I approached Dr. Lawson already, and he's part of this story. I think that if we can use this as a tool to communicate with our students and their families, that's going to help get active users. But I also really want to reach out to the church community, because I think what we're building, I'll share with you, Near 2 came from one day, nearer my God to thee. It really was, this is me using my talents, and if I can do this as a way to get people more connected and have a voice in church and active participation, that'd be great. The byproduct of that is if we can get all those churchgoers every Sunday using this, that's going to help them come downtown and buy things on Main Street.
Sure. Mr. Robinson.
Excuse me, Mayor, just one comment. We work very closely with Ms. Fogle, and from an economic development standpoint, this is sliced bread and grits all in one. I'm just very excited about the possibilities and the usage of what she is developing. And I see tremendous, also additional with Alderman King, Mr. May, and I'm working with the Tourism Council. And there are applications here that your wildest imagination really can't imagine what if this goes, Tullahoma, and using us as sort of a guinea pig, if you will, but has the potential to spread all across this country. It's that exciting.
Dr. Lawson, you see the benefit in the school system as well, I'm sure.
We have certainly endeavored to upgrade our communications, our interactions, and we know that the technology we used 5 years ago is antiquated, and the technology we use today will be antiquated in 5 years. So we have to be aware of whatever new things are coming.
So I'm excited about this. I wanted to share this with you so that you can be a part of this as this grows in our community. And as Mr. Robinson said, it'll be an economic development factor as well. Tullahoma's on the cutting edge in so many ways, and this is another one of those ways.
Well, I was thinking while you were speaking how it would have been cool to have this for the Earth Day.
That's right.
Because I had several people who said, "Hey, Robin, I didn't know this was going on. My kids saw the tents whenever we were driving by, but if it had, got a push from in their phone, it was, oh, there's an Earth Day going on, let's turn around,
That's right.
So that's very cool.
And for all of those merchants, because I was there, and all of those merchants that were having you sign in and take a brochure, we wouldn't have needed all that paper. We could have done it digitally.
Go great.
So next year, we had it, and we just couldn't make that date, but we've got some things. I'm working closely with Winston, and we're working on what's coming next month and how we can start deploying this. But it will, I have to say, this community really is the perfect test site. I feel like that's why it was kind of how we came here, because I was led here. The gigabit internet and the progressive spirit and the community interaction. When I went to that tourism council meeting and heard all of those people saying, I want to share where to go, I want to tell them to go to you, that doesn't happen in a lot of towns. People are really protective. And this is an open spirit, and that's what it's going to take.
Ms. Vogel, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, you ready for the, we're ready for the city attorney's report, Mr. Worsham.
I realize you have a long meeting tonight. I want to tell you that there's two kinds of people in the world, those that have something to say and those that have to say something. And tonight I have to say 2 or 3 things. First of all, thank you, Lee, for that presentation. If I can finally crawl into the 21st century, I'm going to talk to you privately and get some instruction about how to use that wonderful thing. That sounds like a really exciting thing for our town.
Absolutely.
And I think it's going to be really a success. Secondly, I want to thank Mr. Baltz for having helped me these years as I've returned to being city attorney again, having some absence for a few years, in bringing me up to date on all the things that we're doing, and to commend him for all the wonderful work he's done for our town. He's brilliant, he's talented, he's very hardworking, and it's been a distinct pleasure to work with him. We're going to miss him. I wish there was some way we could hold him hostage. I wish I knew something about him so he wouldn't leave. He'd be afraid I'd tell him I don't. But I just want to thank you, Jody, for what you've done. Thirdly, I want to tell all y'all that, as you know, I'm a member of the Community Pride Foundation, and our mission and our goal is to attempt to get people in this town to be more aware of their environment, to be more aware of the aesthetics of the town, and to work toward beautifying it as part of the quality of life that we're all seeking here, good quality of life. At my office and at my home, I and my family and my employees pick up the trash in front of our own property every day. If every property owner did that, we wouldn't have to have cleanup days, because they just pick up their own. And it wouldn't be a big task to do that. You can take one of your little grocery bags and go out there and pick up a few things, put it in your garbage can, that's all you've got to do. So I encourage people to do that, and I think that our town will be a much more beautiful town if we were to do that. The last thing is a little lesson to you, a little civics lesson to you about law. Dr. Leffler made a statement that upset me terribly. We work within the framework of the law. We have a system of checks and balances. We have 3 bodies. We have the legislative body, the executive body, and the judicial body. We are governed by the laws. We don't have a lot of latitude in things that we do and decisions we make many times. Many things are mandated to us, to municipalities, by the state law. We've got about a 40-volume set of Tennessee laws called the Tennessee Code Annotated, and there are things in there that govern what organizations can do, like the Planning Commission, like the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, like the Board of Public Utilities, and all these kinds of things. So that if it appears that we're being biased, or that we're being rigid, sometimes we have no choice but to do that. Things are governed by the law. In addition to that, Tullahoma has a code of ordinances that's about this thick, as you know, and in that, in the wisdom of people in the past, they have decided there are certain things we need to do to govern us and guide us in what we do for our community and for the welfare of people. So many times we don't have the latitude and the opportunity from a legal standpoint to do something that we like to do. But the last resort in this process is the judicial resort. And people don't like litigation. We don't like the government to tell us things, Dr. Blanks, and I hate it too, but we live in that kind of a society and that kind of an era now, and we have to live that way. If we do something that's illegal or improper and the courts overrule us, we have some real exposure to liability that could cost the people of this town money. So we've got to be very careful about what we do and make sure that we adhere to the laws very carefully. So That's what I try to do in my advice to the city and the things that I do. And Mr. Balls has done that as city administrator, and all of you all do that too. Thank you.
Mr. Worsham, you're so much more eloquent than was I a few minutes ago, so I concur and agree 100%. Thank you very much.
Mike, can I say one
Yes, sir.
thing? Back to your point about technology. Technology is wonderful. The privacy issue is something that bothers me. So as long as, whatever this, I think would be great. But just, people have to be aware. And I don't think the younger generations really get that yet. My son definitely probably does not. So be careful what you share, because it can come, it's out there forever. And, and there's people that are trying to access different parts of, what you do, and some of that you don't care about, and some of it you do. So, that to me is something that, we've seen lately that, some of these things have gotten away from the big computer entities. So we have to be careful about that. I'm not anti-technology because I live in that world, and I'm not old enough yet that I'm shunning it totally, but you just, you have to be about your P's and Q's there. And I'll hush. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm just, one thing I'd like to say on that, we have an expert in town now that maybe you could work with the chamber or something to set up something, a class on social media. I think the chamber did one several years ago, and that was very informative. I didn't become an expert though in it or anything, but I'd like to, if we've got the ability all around us to understand it better, I think a lot of people would really buy into that. Just to more social media exposure, to understand it, to know how to go out there and protect your privacy and just, what's available.
Good point. Chamber, there's your seminar.
Well, may I say something?
Yes. Step to the podium.
Welcome to the committee, Jackie Duncan.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, that,
You gotta keep your mouth shut.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mr. Worsham. Mr. Balls.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to report that the guardrail has been installed on Cedar Lane near Splash Island. And it's timely because we also, Commissioner Shore from TDOT has submitted his 3-year plan that's been approved by the governor's office, and it's been submitted to the legislature. And in the 3-year plan, they do show constructing the Wilson Avenue from First Avenue to North Jackson Street, and they're showing that construction to take place in FY19.
Right.
So a consequence of that construction will be the closure of the bridge at Highway 55 over Rock Creek for some duration of time. And when that happens, there'll be more truck traffic on Cedar Lane. So it's good to have that guardrail there because you will see more truck traffic during that construction phase. Of course, this is all still subject to final approval by the General Assembly, but it does look like after many years that they are going to proceed with that work on State Route 55. I believe, if I recall correctly, the first resolution the Board of Mayor and Aldermen sent to the state of Tennessee about improving Highway 55 was submitted in 2001. So anyway, if we're still using cars when they finish it, that's all I have.
So, Mr. Balls, how many more Board Mayor and Alderman meetings do you have before you retire?
This is my last board meeting, unless you have a special call meeting between now and next week. This will be my last board meeting.
I'm sure everybody's aware that next Friday is Mr. Balls' last day of work, so.
That's my technical last day. You won't see me here Friday.
Appreciate the warning. So earlier tonight, we had a reception for Mr. Balls, very well attended by a large number of the members of the community, and so just wanted to tell you again, thank you. Job well done.
Thank you.
Another spontaneous standing ovation. Amen. That's the second one that I know about. Well, congratulations. Yeah. Okay, we're ready for the consent agenda. We have 3 items: 1861 minutes of the April 9, 2018 regular meeting, 1862 March 2018 finance report, 1863 set public hearing to amend the comprehensive transportation plan. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented? Second. Proper motion by Mr. Duncan, seconded by Mr. Notes. All those in favor of the consent agenda as presented, vote green. Opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. We have 1 item of old business. This is the second and final reading of ordinance number 1498, an ordinance to amend the City of Tullahoma Occupational Safety and Health Program Plan and related rules and regulations. Is there a motion to adopt? So moved. Second. Proper motion, properly seconded. Okay, Mr. Mathis, motion. Dr. Blank, second. Any discussion? All those in favor of ordinance number 1498, second final reading, vote green. Opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. We have several items of new business. Resolution number 1752, a resolution designated a certain segment of West Blackwell Street in honor of Dr. Bruce Galbraith and Dr. Claude Snoddy for adoption. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Second. Was it
Proper
motion second?
Yes. Motion by Mr. Noah, seconded by Ms. Keene. Any discussion? These are 2.
I think it's awesome that we're doing.
Yeah, one of the daughters of Dr. Galbraith contacted me and wanted to honor their late father in this way. Has everyone voted? Motion.
All right.
Let me start over. My fault. All those in favor of the resolution 1752, vote green. Opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 1864, acceptance of fiscal year 17 audit. You see that on page 58. Ms. Bean and Householder Artman, the annual audit for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2017 has been completed. A representative from the firm Householder Artman Associates, PLLC, will be present. Ms. Bean is here at the board meeting to address any questions. Copies of the audit have been provided and are available for review in the finance office as well.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Proper motion by Ms. Keene, seconded by Dr. Blanks. Any discussion? Ms. Bean, did you want to talk? No. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of 1864, vote green. Opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. 1865, accept approval of fiscal year 18 audit services. So that's why she was smiling so big. She wants us to, she didn't want to talk. You'll see on page 59, Householder Artman PLLC, the city's current auditor, submitted a multi-year proposal to provide audit services for the city of Tullahoma, Tennessee, city schools, Tullahoma Industrial Development Board, Tullahoma Airport Authority, and Tullahoma Area Economic Development Corporation. The total fiscal year 18 audit fee proposed for all entities is $42,500. Is there a motion to renew the audit contract with Householder Artman & Associates? Proper motion by Mr. Noah, seconded by Alderman Duncan. Any discussion?
Question.
Yes, sir.
Do we bid this out, or is it?
Mr. Waltz or Ms. Wilson? Mr. Waltz?
Your question about the cost is allocated.
We don't bid it out, though, right? Lowest bid or whatever? Or?
We periodically take proposals and evaluate them, and this is a renewal on the contract.
Okay.
Good question. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of 1865, vote green. Opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. 1866, approval of performance agreement. You see that on 2 pages over. This has to do with the Mr. Glicks, as the Director of Parks and Rec, has organized the, looks like a great lineup for the annual Grape and Grain Festival. And this motion would be to allow the mayor to enter into the performance agreement.
Move to approve.
Second.
Proper motion by Mr. Noes, seconded by Ms. Keene. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, 1866, vote green. Opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. 1867, approval of state maintenance contract, page 63 of your songbook. This is the yearly state contract the city uses to bill the state for routine maintenance on state routes. The recommendation is to approve for the mayor to sign the yearly maintenance contract with the state.
Motion approved.
Second.
Proper motion by Dr. Blank, second by Mr. Norris. Any discussion? All those in, I'm sorry, Ms. Dunn, did you say?
No.
No.
Sorry.
All those in favor of the motion as presented, 1867, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Mr. Balls, any other new business?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We are adjourning, going to the beer board portion of the agenda. We have one consent item, minutes of the April 9, 2018 beer board meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved. Second.
Motion by Dr. Blanks, seconded by Alderman Duncan. All those in favor of the consent agenda is presented, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. We have two items of beer business, 18 BB09 beer permit special event nonprofit Grapes and Grain Festival, Fraser McEwen Park, Highland Rim, Kiwanis, June 16, 2018. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve and not to charge the fee, to waive the fee.
King, and who seconded?
I second.
Mr. Mathis.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
It's going to be exciting.
This is going to be exciting. Yeah, I'm excited about it. In just a moment, I'm going to call on, well, that's the next item. Never mind. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of 18 BB09, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Our last item, 18 BB10 beer permit special event nonprofit Taste of Tullahoma, West Lincoln Street, Tullahoma Area Chamber of Commerce, May 22nd, or rain date.
Motion to approve with waiving the fee.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Duncan, seconded by Dr. Blanks. Any discussion? Ms. Sarton is here. I'm going to ask her to step to the podium and just give us a brief. Welcome.
Well, we are going to have our second annual Taste of Tullahoma / Business Expo. Last year we had a sellout event and it was at the National Readiness Center, and so this year we decided to bring it downtown to hopefully bring people downtown, and so we're going to have sort of a farm to table feel. And so we've already had a lot of excitement. We already have several vendors and encourage people to come out and enjoy that event and have a little bit of Taste of Tullahoma. So the date is Tuesday, May 22nd from 4 to 7, and the rain date is that Thursday this week.
Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Sarton. All those in favor of the motion, 18 BB10, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Any other more business, Mr. Alden or Mr. Walsh? No. All right, so we'll adjourn and go into the board study session. We're very pleased that our Board of Education Chair is here, Mr. Pat Welch. Board member, Ms. Gigi Robinson is here. Director of Schools, Dr. Ian Lawson is here. Ms. Sandy Vaughn is here. I warned her. So, Dr. Lawson, this is sort of the reverse standing ovation. We all stood up for Mr. Valtz, and now when you stand up, everybody stands up, but they leave.
Absolutely.
But I guess you're used to that.
I will only assume that they are confident that things are left in good hands. You're wrong, sir.
Mr. Welch, thank you.
My comments will be brief, because I'm sure everybody would concur that they ought to be.
Is there a second?
Second. Yeah, third. Well, we want to thank you all for your continued support. Historically, we had great relationships and continue to do so with the school board and the city board. Our system continues to excel, and something happens almost every week. You've recognized our archers tonight. And, the Sunday paper, I believe, had the math contest results, and there was one item left out of Ms. McCullough's article that I don't think Mr. Van Zant wanted included because he is not the most competitive person known to man, outwardly, though inwardly he very much so is. I want to point out that there are 17 high schools there, and the 3 high school math divisions, there's 10 places in each, so there's 30 spots, and those 30 spots were won by only 4 schools. Siegel, which is the newest Rutherford County school in Murfreesboro, had 1 placer. Webb, the acclaimed private school in Bell Buckle, had 5. Murfreesboro Rutherford County now has an academic magnet school at the old Central High School. I don't believe it's been going on but about 5 years, but it's attracted not every top academic student in Murfreesboro, but it's got a lot of them. They had 9. THS had 15. I think great things are still happening in our school system every day. Somebody referred to his last day. I thought when I pulled up to the reception tonight, he'd already had his last day. He was figured it his literal last day. It looked like a visitation of funeral. I do want to recognize Jody, and also I think the community and your board especially needs to be noted. Where else in the state have you got a city administrator type government in the school system where executive directors both been there for over 20 years? I really think it speaks well to most of them. I think the average stay is probably 3 or 4. We're extremely lucky to have had both of them. I'm not going to stay here much longer because this is Dr. Lawson's last chance at this meeting. I want him to have all that he needs. The only thing I would point out that we've had a pretty the same contribution from the direct appropriation for a while now. At some point, I ask that will have to. Dr. Lawson, your last try.
Thank you. I forgot, I did not see Ms. Fanning a few minutes ago, so I want to recognize the Director of Construction as well. And I know now why you were not sitting on the front row, so we could not see your socks. So, let everybody see your socks before we get started here.
Whoa.
Almost as nice as Dr. Lang's.
Let's make sure if he does, we recognize Ms. Vaughn.
I did, and I saw her, and I saw Ms. Robbins. I recognized Ms. Robbins. Dr. Lawson.
I'd like to echo the kind words about Jody. Too many in our community don't know the expertise, the involvement, and the absolute heart for service that we've enjoyed for the last 2 decades with Mr. Bones. And certainly would like to commend him for his outstanding service and enjoy. And I'm soon behind you, sir. Likewise, we've enjoyed a great partnership with all arms of this government, from Parks and Recreation to Fire Department and Police Department. Recently, we had a situation in Florida where there was a shooting, and folks rightfully were on edge. I reached out to Chief Blackwell and asked for his assistance to hold a forum for our students whereby we would have an interactive dialogue with our kids. So we weren't just there talking to them. Instead, we had 2 assemblies, and our kids were at liberty to use their devices or use their hands to throw them up and offer any questions that they may have. Your chief of police did a remarkable job in dealing with our community of young people and giving them a sense of confidence, a sense of security, and a sense of belief that they're protected both in their school and in their community. I think it's really important that as we think about the issue of school safety, we have to understand that there are things that we can absolutely do to make our schools safer. When Dan Lawson and Lane Curley were in school, the idea was that you made schools as open and as accessible as is possible. So Tullahoma High School was constructed, and at one point in time, we had 96 different doors to get in and out of that building. When you have 96 different doors, unless you have someone holding those doors shut or securing those doors, you've got potential for those doors to be open and potential for some challenges. We have made monumental strides at Tullahoma High School, as well as all of our schools. And today, to get into any school, one has to type in a code or come in at the prescribed time under supervision. Is it perfect? No, it's not. But it's better than it's been. We will continue to work on school safety issues. As you have seen in the last legislative session, the governor has proposed the passage of $30 million to be directed to school safety. Our belief is the best allocation of those resources will be to affect some of the hardware of our buildings, perhaps improving our doors, perhaps improving some of our cameras, integrating with the police department to make sure that our buildings are as safe as possible. But folks, we don't want prisons. We want schools, we want places that are home, we want places that our kids can belong to. It's real easy to focus a lot on that school safety issue because we see that CNN or Fox News truck pull in front of a school and talk about the children who were shot, and it's dreadful and it's terrible. But if we think about issues of school safety, we need to be communities that are focused on the needs of our kids today that have little or nothing to do with guns. As a matter of an example, we will have about 100 teen suicides that take place this week. If you think about school shootings in the last 5 years, there haven't been 100 fatalities in the last 5 years. When we think about suicide as an issue in our state, the most recent data suggests that we will have 15.6 suicides annually for every 100,000 people. Among children 10 to 14 years of age, that's the second leading cause of death. Fox News is not going to show up and talk about that. But when we think about what makes our community safer, we've got to do a much better job with mental health issues. So as we have considered mental health issues, we are looking at a partnership with Centerstone right now to get more services in our schools. And we're attempting to do so on an insurance provider basis. Simply put, we're hopefully going to bring those services in, and the parents' insurance may be billed for those services. But candidly, we have way too many people in America who don't have immediate access to mental health issues, and we're focusing on addressing that. We think that's an important thing to do. Furthermore, in the last couple of years, we have added school social workers just to address some of those same mental health issues. We started with a grant and we picked up some of those social workers in our general purpose budget. It's been a challenge, but we are committed to the fact that it's important for our kids. I told the kids in the assembly as I was talking with the chief of police that if I had a magic wand and could wave that magic wand and make them safer, the first two things that would disappear would be inattentiveness in a car as they're driving, and the second would be the issue of suicide. School shootings are way down the list. We're going to respond, we're going to work to make our schools safer, but we can't as a community simply say, let's put locks on the doors, let's make this safer, and disregard the issue of mental health. So we're focusing on mental health. In the governor's proposal to address $30 million to be shared in school districts in our state for safety purposes. We should garner about $25 per student, or about $85,000 in the coming year. We have to have a safety assessment. We will partner with our local police department to get some of that work done, and candidly, we've done a lot of that work. But we will focus on making our schools safer, both inside and outside. And I wanted to let you know that $85,000 is going to be what we have this year, and we should expect on a recurring basis much less, about $30,000 a year following next year. If we look at our assets as a school district, they're comprised primarily of buildings that will range in age from less than 10 years old with East Lincoln Elementary to more than 60 years old with Bel Air Elementary School. We have had challenges with a couple of buildings, Bel Air chief among those challenges, in that when the building was designed in 1950 or so, it was designed on a plane with a real challenge to know what to do with the water. So beneath the basement of Bel Air Elementary are 2 sump pumps. And the initial design called for, let's take the water to a spot below the basement and then pump that water out. As we've considered that challenge, we're thinking about water invading that building, creating the challenges that it creates, and then hopefully keeping those sump pumps alive to pump it out. And while that's been a functional design in 1950, I'm not sure it's an acceptable design in 2020. We have an engineering firm looking at our current design and seeing if they can propose some ideas to affect what we're doing with draining that campus and what we're doing to make the interior of that building less of a challenge with the water that's coming from outside. We don't have a status yet. We just know that that work is underway. In the 1970s, there were a series of architects who sold designs that we're puzzled by today, and those designs are called an open pod design. We effected a remedy to one open pod design at East Middle School by erecting walls. But we have one open pod design that remains that is much more problematic. It's much more problematic in that a solution is not as easy at Jack T. Farrah as it was at East Middle School. We have some fire code issues there. We don't have sprinklers there. We have fewer points of egress. There are just a list of challenges that that building creates for us. Nonetheless, we have an architectural team looking at that building today in hopes of proposing several ideas for us and our future. Neither of those issues will have an impact on our coming school year budget. Both of those issues will have an impact on this board and the future at the Board of Education. Now, as I think about school issues, typically when we spend big money, we spend big money on roofs. We spend big money on new buildings because of needing capacity. We are probably 3 to 5 years out on needing a roof replacement, and our current numbers don't indicate that we have a capacity issue. We do have one roofing issue that requires some immediate attention, but it's really not over our house. It's really not over our building. As you think about the hallway that separates South Jackson and Old West Middle School, that hallway leaves Old West and walks into a dead end at South Jackson. As the last extension of the lease with South Jackson was affected by City Hall, we expected and we requested that the hallway that goes nowhere be terminated. And our idea was simply to demolish that hallway and bring an access road through, or demolish that hallway and landscape, but permanently sever those two facilities. It candidly hasn't been a priority until we reach a point that we're facing a roof failure. So now we're in a consideration of, we have a roof over an asset that provides no utility. And somebody's kind of caught with an issue of, do we spend $40,000, $50,000 on this roof that covers nothing, or do we affect a real fix by demolishing this hallway? And our request to you is, let's effect a real fix. Let's make this what it was supposed to have been as we negotiated the last agreement. And we don't need this there. We don't need to invest in something that provides no value for any of us. So in general, as I close on the issue of school buildings, we're in pretty decent shape. We don't have a challenge with needing extra classrooms next year. We don't have a challenge with the energy efficiency of our buildings. We don't have a challenge with the safe occupancy of our buildings. Our board committed to make some great changes to our buildings. So our HVAC is in good shape. Our windows throughout are in great shape. But we do have a couple of buildings that are picking up some age. And you need to have those buildings on your radar for future consideration. As you think about replacing a building, typical construction costs for school buildings today are approximating $200 a square foot. The last 2 school buildings we have built have been just a little more than 80,000 square feet. So that'll kind of give you some ideas as to what we could and should expect in the next 5 to 10 years. We will keep you apprised of where we are on the research that we find out about both Jack T. Farah and Bel Air, but here clearly, neither of those issues will impact next year's budget. So what will impact our next year's budget? Just like yours, people. 85% of our budget is about people. And we saw a real problem with what we were doing as a school system with our budget, especially with our lowest paid personnel. So our board studied, considered, and decided to raise the salaries of our lowest paid personnel. Our non-certified folks enjoyed an increase in, I believe, February. I believe effective February. And that increase helped us be competitive in the marketplace. We all know that if we pick up Tullahoma News 5-7 years ago, we didn't see one ads. Today we pick up Tullahoma News and we see any number of places begging for employees and paying a substantially higher rate of pay than we were paying. So we effected a change in that in February, but we didn't affect a change in the salaries of our teachers. In my tenure, we've seen a pretty dramatic decline in our relative position against the rest of the state as we think about teacher salaries. That's not because of something we have done. That instead is because of the great growth others have enjoyed from the basic education program that candidly we were kind of in advance of, we were ahead of. So we've seen neighbors catch us in a lot of places where previously we were far beyond where they were paying. The budget proposal that we have and the outline that you've seen suggests that we would like to see a step increase and a 2% increase for our teaching staff. 2% increase, as you know, is in line with what Social Security said the cost of living was for this year. So we feel like it's not something that's going to help us catch up, but we're hopeful that it will keep us from falling further behind. Second thing we did as we think about our position, about 4 years ago, we put some cost controls in place for our insurance. We had trudged along for year after year after year, giving our employees an option as to whichever insurance product they wanted to purchase, and our Board of Education affected that purchase. Beginning 3 years ago, we limited those options, and we in fact put a cap on what the school board would purchase. We effected an increase in that cap last year, and we need to effect an increase in that cap for the coming year. We are not ahead of where we were 3 years ago, but unless we account for what we're hoping to be a 5% increase in that cap, we're going to see our relative take-home value of our employees fall further and further behind. So this budget request is stating that we would like to see our cap lifted by $177,000, or about 5% of what our premiums are. Our employees will still have substantial out-of-pocket responsibilities. But that's the other component of our individual employee package that we think is important. Finally, each of us well understand that we're a community that's about the arts. We're a community that enjoys tremendous success in the arts. And we've done so in some ways on a wing and a prayer, especially at the elementary level. We have a half of a music teacher and a half of an art teacher who spend time at each school. And in essence, we have one full-time person on the east side of town and one full-time person on the west side of town. This budget request asks for funding to accomplish a full-time person at each school. So we're netting 4 new positions if that component of this budget is approved. Finally, we made a change several years ago to make some differences in what we're doing with our graduation rate at the high school. Among those changes was the establishment of a High School 101 program. High School 101 was designed to segregate our high school students to offer them fewer classes over a longer period of time, and hopefully to ensure that we had a greater number of students passing than we had known before. At the same time, we have seen a number of students who are placed at the high school level rather than promoted. Now, what placed means is they don't belong at a middle school level, but we don't have confidence that they will be successful at the high school level. It's really pretty easy to sit back and say, well, we've got the fix for that. Don't move them up. The challenge with don't move them up is the concept of who here is really excited about having student parking at East and West Middle School. I don't think anybody is. And who here is excited about keeping a child in the same environment if they haven't been successful? Let's try a different treatment. We started with discussions that looked pretty broad, looked pretty expansive, and candidly were much bigger than we could afford. And I went back to Principal Rose and her staff and said, this is a great idea, but this is not something we can fund in this budget. Improve this idea and make it less expensive. The proposal then became, let's focus on both math skills and reading skills with these kids, with an interventionist, with someone from the elementary level, someone from an intermediate level, who can deal with challenges that they face and provide that intervention and assistance. So as you see an interventionist mentioned, that's exactly what that person will do, and that's what their responsibility will be. This time last year, I had a discussion with you about TCRS and told you that we were going to have to transition to TCRS, and we didn't know what our backward liability would be in that transition. After a lot of time and a lot of research and a lot of lawyering, we were able to determine that we had no backward liability, and our liabilities began in January of 2018. That was great news for us and great news for the city in that we were allowed to keep our non-certified retirement intact on the side, and then effective January 1, start over with a new program. We have about $4 million in unfunded pension liability that's been amortized over the next 19 years. We just accomplished the first year of that amortization last year. We were compelled to amortize that unfunded liability in a period of time of no less than 30 years. So we accelerated our process a little bit, and we do have some liability that's out there, but that liability is much less than it was before we transitioned to TCRS. So what's the bottom line to all this? Bottom line is we don't have a credible number from the state with our BEP. We received a BEP update Friday, and that material was in error. I've talked to state finance folks today. We're hopeful that we see a new number, and my best guess is that we'll see about $425,000 or so from the state in terms of BEP numbers. We have no idea what Coffee County is going to do, and we have no idea as to what Franklin County is going to do, which is a much smaller piece of the pie for us. To accomplish the board priorities, we need about $818,000 plus the $425,000 that we've assumed in the BEP. That, sir, is the pitch, top to bottom. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and happier still to refer any questions, Ms. Robinson.
So what, on the intervention, what was the original cost of that?
Restate that, please.
On page 2, THS intervention 101, what was the original cost of that? It's now reduced to $95,000. What was the original, Mrs. Rose's original cost?
We had we had an original that was close to $600,000. We had an upgrade that was $385? $345, okay.
What are you budgeting for a sales tax increase?
We are not. We have made no assumption regarding a sales tax increase. So that certainly is another area where we can see some improvement, sure.
Because right now, for the first 9 months of the fiscal year, we're at 2% increase. This past month was a great month, up 7%, so hopefully that trend will continue.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Love to see it.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of concerns.
Yes, ma'am.
I think you mentioned that you're looking to employ mental health counselors.
No, ma'am. I mentioned that we're bringing them in. We're not going to employ them.
Okay, so they will be paid for by
a private vendor and insurance of our students, as well as Medicaid.
I guess my concern with that is that a school counselor and a mental health counselor have almost the exact same education minus one class. So over a 2-year program, you're looking at, just something as far as filing versus, school ethics. And my question is why go this route with mental health counselor when you have school counselors?
Because sadly, we spend way too much time with our school counselors sorting tests and way too little time dealing with real mental health issues, is my honest answer in that regard.
Well, as an advocate for your school counselors, I feel like that is a not a good way to use someone with so much education.
Absolutely concur.
I attended the Safety Summit this last Wednesday in Nashville that was done by the Tennessee School Board Association, and we had a health professional that came and spoke, and that was what she said also. She said the same thing. It's sad. And everybody that was in there nodded their head in agreement that in all of our schools, we are using our guidance counselors, our school counselors in these capacities, but we really don't have a lot of choice because it's mandated that, that's what we have to do. And so that was definitely a topic that was discussed and talked about on Wednesday.
When you say sorting test, what do you mean?
You're asking for this to get a lot longer.
Please, no.
If we look at testing requirements that have, that the state has imposed on us, we'll spend the better part of 2 weeks, 2 instructional weeks, to prepare tests, to disseminate tests, to determine who's going to give the right test, to divide our students for the read alouds, to bring the test back in, to put them in the right box, to really to stack and sort the tests.
Because what I understood is what the high school had an employee who was more or less an administrative assistant who was called the testing coordinator.
That's correct.
And so that person, that was that person's only job, and the school board is not looking to do a similar format for the other schools. Is that correct? No.
We do have, at the high school, we have one person designated as a testing person, true?
That's correct.
We also have 3 counselors, true?
That's correct.
Why is it we never have employed that 4th counselor, 1 per grade?
I would love to add that to the budget.
Am I correct in this THS intervention that this $95,000, this would be an administrative position?
No, you're not correct.
Okay.
That is an interventionist plus their supplies and materials.
Gotcha.
Other questions?
Well, I've got to applaud you for adding the increased salary to the non-certified staff.
Thank you. That's not me, that's a Board of Education that very well understood what the market looked like and the needs of those who have the, at times, the least enticing jobs that we have.
So how much money is in the sales tax sinking fund approximately?
Are you talking about for service on debt?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson, do you happen to know that? My person who would know that is at a finance meeting right now.
About 3 million?
I would guess somewhere between 1.5 and 3. As a reminder, and please correct where I miss on this, as a reminder, we pay mortgage payments out of that, both in April and October. And once a dollar gets in there, it may only be used for those mortgage payments.
Right.
Get all that right? Okay.
I realize that kids get beat down a lot of times at home and go through a lot of things that they shouldn't have to, maybe don't get fed properly, and I know there are all kind of programs, hopefully, that will encourage them or to build them up when they, I know teachers don't have time to build them up when they get to school, that if they've been torn down the night before at home, maybe, and I don't say that in a bad way, but a lot of kids just don't get have the same environment at home, maybe.
Right.
And I just like to encourage them every way I can, and they're there. Sometimes a sign somewhere, just an uplifting sign will, something to encourage me on the wall somewhere, you're better than you realize, or something, or no bullying, anti-bullying, something, little slogans and things like that. And I like to do things like that, and I inspire myself a lot of times just from doing little slogans and things. But it's anything like that being incorporated into school systems, just a sign on the wall says, you are fantastic, or something, to encourage them, to uplift them, to.
Sure, on the elementary level, they do that, probably more so than the middle school or the high school level.
Mr. Duncan, I think you're probably suggesting something that our board is very, very focused on. and that is the belief that if a child is engaged in something, they're engaged in almost anything. Under Mr. Mathis's watch, we started a bowling team for kids who weren't athletes anywhere else, but they found success and they found involvement and they belonged and engaged. If I look at some of the programs that we have begun, a program like our junior ROTC, who had kids who too often weren't involved in a program at school, give them a special place to be and to belong. So I think the idea of building that esteem is important, but for us, it's more than marketing. You've got to have a deliverable, and that deliverable is some way that they're involved. And we'll find, as we look at things like absences, as we look at things like discipline and grades, the more a child is involved, the better they're going to do on all of those things.
I agree. I can also add that I'm in the elementary schools all the time, and in the high school all the time, and the principals have really, you can't walk down the hallways and not see encouragement there. So, but in addition to the two things that you mentioned, there's the archery that we recognize the 2 young people today. I mean, that's certainly a good program, and other things in the schools as well. Well, so here's the next. Mr. Baltz is a very sharp and very shrewd and smart individual. So he's retiring prior to the budget process, really.
Which was a smart move.
Yeah, exactly. So I
had no prior knowledge of the magnitude of the request, but I'm sure they're all good projects.
So, and I'm not speaking of just the school system budget, I'm thinking about the city government budget as well. So Ms. Wilson always does a yeoman's job putting all this together, and then we'll be working with Mr. Blackwell, and so we'll stay in touch. It's too early for me to comment at this point.
Understood.
Recommendations. Yeah.
Understood.
Any other questions or observations before we go? Ms. Robinson, did you have anything to add?
We just appreciate everybody working together, and I will say that the time that we've spent in looking at our budget this year and the discussion that we put into the priorities that the board saw you see reflected in this, they're very important. All of these are important, and there are a lot of important ones that you don't see on here. So we just appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Dr. Lawson.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.